there was no need for Gian to look back and stare at me.
Yeah, no, yeah.
He's still got a dart in hand, so really he should just be like, should step back, look at the floor, and then throw his last dart. So he's staring at me, and he's caught me apparently, what is it?
Like from my perspective, I missed the double 15, and I looked around and like, because I was fuming with myself that I hit it on the inside, and I looked around and he was like doing this towards the crowd. He was celebrating me missing. I was like, that's out of order, and I was fuming about that, and I don't know, he probably saw it and he missed 3 darts at double 7, and he looked at me like I was the problem. I was like, I don't know what I did wrong because you're celebrating me missing, and I thought that was out of order. He missed, I took it out, and yeah, he's probably fuming, but you know, that starts and like, yeah, that's my perspective. Probably his perspective is a different side of it. And
Luke Littler just gave his side of the story, and it changes things. 11 days after the most talked about moment in darts this year, the world #1 sat down and walked through exactly what happened in Manchester. And his version includes something nobody saw, something the cameras missed entirely, and something Jan van Veen has not denied. In Littler's opinion, what you saw on April 2nd was not the whole story. Going into April 13th, the public narrative had been running in one direction for nearly 2 weeks, and it was not running in Littler's favour. The image burned into everyone's mind was simple: a 19-year-old world champion fist-pumping while his opponent still had a dart in hand, following it with a crybaby gesture when he lost, then posting laughing emojis on Instagram and a screenshot of all 12 of his PDC major titles with the caption, "Good night, God bless, thank you, Manchester." No explanation, no context, no acknowledgement that any of it looked bad. Bienvenue. Veen had been speaking, though. To Sky Sports on the night, he called Littler's behaviour out of order and told reporters Littler had shown he was not a good loser. To Viaplay, in the days that followed, he confirmed the two had not spoken, that he had seen the Instagram reaction and thought it was funny, and that things were not going to be very friendly between us anytime soon. He delivered one line that travelled across every corner of darts media: "I care little about what he thinks of me." The deliberate use of his opponent's surname as an adjective landing with precision that felt almost too clean to be accidental. Night 10 in Brighton made the situation worse. The moment Littler walked on, the crowd booed him. He cupped his ears and shrugged, but that night's performance spoke louder than the gesture. A career-worst televised average of 83.94. A 6-4 loss to Stephen Bunting. Wayne Mardle on commentary, saying the events had taken their toll. Reports that the two players prepared in separate rooms. Still no words exchanged between them. 11 days of that had stacked up by the time Littler finally sat down to talk. An exhibition in Bournemouth, filmed for the Online Darts YouTube channel. That was the setting Littler chose to break his silence. Not a press conference, not a formal Sky Sports sit-down. Sky Sports picked it up and published it at 14:39 UK time on April 13th. Sport Bible, Darts News, GB News and the PA Wire all ran it within hours. The headline across every outlet carried the same phrase: Littler breaks his silence, and the first thing he addressed was the fist pump, the moment the whole controversy built itself on. His words: "When he came inside the double 15, I looked up, had a drink of my water, and then I did a little fist bump towards Faith and her dad. That's when the fans started screaming, so I was like, come on to them." This is the distinction Littler spent the entire interview pressing. Not that the celebration didn't happen, he is not claiming that, but that the target of it was his girlfriend Faith Miller and her father sitting in the crowd at the AO Arena, and that the crowd noise triggered the come on motion. Van Veen, standing at the ockey with a dart still in hand, turned around and caught the tail end of it and read it as a direct response to his missed double 15. Littler put it plainly: "He's caught me, so I didn't do it to him. I did it to Faith and her dad, the whole crowd. One act, two completely different interpretations of who it was meant for. And here's the thing, nobody who watched it live could tell the difference from camera angle alone, which is exactly why this interview existed." On Van Veen, turning from the ockey to stare at him, Littler offered no sympathy. "There was no need for Gian to look back and stare at me. He's still got a dart in hand, so really he should just step back, look at the floor, and then throw his last dart. That framing matters because the public conversation leading up to April 13th had treated Van Veen as purely on the receiving end of Littler's behaviour. Littler's account puts Van Veen in the room as an active participant rather than a bystander. Someone who chose to turn around, chose to stare, and chose to escalate a moment that could have been absorbed quietly. Whether or not that argument lands for you, it had been completely absent from 11 days of coverage. Nobody had heard it because Littler hadn't said it yet, but none of that was the detail that stopped people mid-scroll when the interview published. That came next, the crybaby gesture. Both hands raised, miming tears, directed toward the crowd as Van Veen won. Of everything that happened on April 2nd, that image drew the most criticism. Wayne Mardle called it something Littler shouldn't have done. Social media treated it as confirmation of exactly what Van Veen had said about poor sportsmanship in defeat. Littler's explanation was a claim that no camera had recorded and no broadcaster had reported. His words, "What other people didn't see was, as I've walked back around, I'm still looking that way, and he's put his darts down on the table. No one sees that." He followed that with, "I think he's the one who's not doing his job, obviously being respectful. I think that's the first ever time I've seen someone put their darts down in front of my face." And on the crybaby gesture itself. I called him a crybaby because there was no need for it. There was no need for him to put his darts down. When he won, I picked my darts up and I said, "Well done, you got the win." Read that carefully, because it restructures the entire sequence of events. Littler is not claiming the gesture came out of nowhere. He is saying it came from something Van Veen did first, placing his darts on the table in front of Littler's face during a changeover, an act Littler describes as the first time he had ever seen a player do that to him. The crybaby was a response, not an opening shot. That changed nothing about what was visible on camera, but it changed the logic of the story. The limits of this account need to be stated clearly. The alleged darts on table moment is Littler's claim and Littler's alone. No camera captured it, no broadcast team confirmed it, no witness has gone on record. Gian Van Veen has not publicly addressed it, has not denied it, has not acknowledged it. 11 days after the event, at a Bournemouth exhibition, the world number one offered it as the explanation for the most criticised gesture of his career. That is the full evidentiary picture. The fist pump is on camera. The stare is on camera. The crybaby gesture is on camera. The Instagram posts are screenshots anybody can find. None of those things are contested. The darts on the table exist so far, only in one person's account. The most honest moment in the whole interview came near the end, and it was the kind of self-awareness that arrived about 10 days too late to soften the damage. Littler told the camera, "The older players have been on tour for years and years. They've learned across the years, where I've just gone from nothing to straight in the limelight. I'm still learning on and off the ockey how to handle stuff. Nobody aged 19 has ever been positioned where Littler now stands in this sport." A £20 million deal with Target Darts signed in January, an MBE, 12 PDC major titles and 2 world championships before he can legally drink in most countries. The scrutiny that arrives with all of that is not something any darts career has prepared a template for, because no career has looked like this one. That statement lands as genuine because the career around it makes it credible. The problem is that it came in a YouTube interview on April 13th, not in a 2-line post on April 2nd, and the laughing emojis and the trophy screenshots sit between. Those two dates like a wall. Littler closed by saying the two men had not spoken and adding, "I'm sure we will." He said he had let it go, and that everyone needed to forget about it now. Van Veen had already made clear he was not expecting things to be friendly anytime soon. The PDC issued no statement, announced no fine, and opened no proceedings against either player. And that is where this story sits, unresolved, uncorroborated, and heading toward Rotterdam on April 17th with a semi-final between these two men entirely possible. But here is the part worth sitting with before you close this video. Assume Littler is telling the truth. Assume Van Veen did place his darts on the table in front of his face during that changeover. Assume every word of his account is accurate. Even then, the timeline does not work in his favour. A fist pump toward your girlfriend, fine. Crowds react, emotions run high. These things happen in a deciding leg. But the crybaby gesture came after Van Veen had already won the match. By that point, the leg was over, the result was settled, and whatever grievance Littler had accumulated in those few seconds, he chose to express it in front of a packed arena and a live Sky Sports broadcast rather than deal with it at the handshake or after the cameras went elsewhere. That choice is on him regardless of what preceded it. Then came the Instagram response, laughing emojis at Van Veen's post-match quotes, a trophy screenshot positioned as a reply to a man who had just beaten him. None of that was heat of the moment. Those posts came after the match, after the adrenaline, after there was time to think. If Van Veen had genuinely disrespected him at the ockey, the Instagram post made Littler look like someone who wanted a fight rather than someone trying to correct a misunderstanding. And then 11 days of silence, no context, no clarification, no acknowledgement that any of it looked bad, followed by a YouTube interview at a Bournemouth exhibition where the one claim that reframes the whole story is one nobody can verify. Van Veen has not denied placing his darts on the table, that matters, but he has not confirmed it either, and the absence of denial is not the same as evidence. The camera that caught everything else caught none of this. Littler said in the interview that he is still learning how to handle the limelight, and that is probably the truest thing spoken in the whole episode. But learning in public, at world number 1, with a £20 million sponsorship deal and a global audience, carries a cost that good intentions alone cannot cover. If his version of events is completely accurate, he still had multiple moments after Manchester where he could have said so clearly, and chose instead to post trophies and laughing emojis. That is not a man being wrongly accused. That is a man who responded badly to a situation he may not have started, and then took nearly 2 weeks to say so. Van Veen called him a fantastic darts player. He said he loved Luke to bits. He also said he was not a good loser, and meant every word of it. If Littler's account is true, Van Veen owes him an acknowledgement, but if Littler wanted the public to see his side of this clearly, he had 11 days to say it simply, and he used most of them to do the opposite. Rotterdam is 4 days away. Neither of them has forgotten anything, and the next time they share a stage, every person in that building will be watching the handshake.